Hello, welcome back to Fanteam Focus. My name is Reese. Coming up on today, we're going to be talking about all things Fanteam. We're joined by a very special guest today, Jack Humphrey. He's going to talk us through NFL, his love for Chelsea and football in general. We'll talk about the Monster, the £1 million game, and of course the NFL. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for having me on today.
No worries at all, pal. Hold on, I think I might have just closed the stream down. Let me just... Fuck. I was trying to close things down because it was just like buffering. So I don't know if we're still live. Yep. So I'm just going to keep talking as if we're still live because I have no idea what's happened. I've just literally closed the tab down. So hopefully it's just as easy as clicking back on it, and we're good to go. So I was trying to...
It happens to the best of us. Don't worry.
I was trying to close Twitter down because I could see that we were dropping loads of frames, you know? So I was trying to just stop everything that was going on my computer. But alas, I think I've messed it up. Let me just click on actual YouTube here on my phone to see if we're still actually going. I doubt it. Fanteam Focus Live. Yeah, we're still live actually, which is pretty cool. So sorry about that, guys. If you sorry about the bad language. If you heard the bad language, let me just check here. Yeah, we're still definitely live. Okay. So yeah, welcome to the Fanteam Focus show. This is what happens in the Fanteam Focus show. We absolutely love the drama. Okay, so we're sponsored by Ultimate Fan today. Ultimate Fan, it's like a mixture between pack openings and fantasy football. Okay, so if you haven't tried it, it's absolutely free to play. Go and check it out. There are paid versions as well, so 18 plus gamble away. You can like pay to upgrade your packs, etc. It's really fun. I've just got started playing it now. You've got your app on your phone and everything. I'm still getting used to it. We haven't got Callum here anymore, so I'm not going to be able to go as in depth with it as Callum is, because I'm literally just learning the game. Talking about learning the game. Oh, and by the way, there's like a £300,000 prize pool. It's all there. The link is in the video description. Go and sign up. It's good fun. But talking about learning games, Fanteam, we've got NFL this year. We got Jack on. He's got a fantasy podcast. He loves NFL. Jack, you sent us your team. I've got here like the rules up as well. And just to let everyone know, I am the most clueless NFL person you could find. Okay, so Jack's going to very kindly answer some of the dumbest questions he's ever heard in his life. Hopefully some of you guys, the viewers, are in the same boat as me in terms of knowledge levels, just literally right down at zero. Jack, talk to me a little bit then. We spoke a little bit off air. Talk to me a little bit about... your love for NFL and where it came from and stuff like that.
So it was around 2013 I fell in love with the NFL. I started playing Madden on my Xbox 360 at the time.
Nice.
And the reason why I started playing it is I was going to... My father-in-law lived in Miami at the time, and we were going there on holiday for a couple of weeks. So I bought Madden on the cheap. I think it was like a 2-year... I think it was from Madden 2011, so it's 2 years old by that point, that game. And I just sort of learnt the basic rules of the game through the video game itself. And then we went off to Miami. I went and watched my first game at the time, it was Sun Life Stadium. It's now Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
Is it the Miami Dolphins? Is that right?
Yeah, it was the Miami Dolphins versus the Carolina Panthers at the time, that game. It was lovely. But, well, it was a bit of a weird game as well because we had every weather season known to man during the game, and at that time the stadium had no roof on it, so we had blistering heat, like 90 degrees, and then we had like a hurricane season weather. It just poured down with ridiculous amount of wind. So but I fell in love with the game. I had an American guy next to me who's just very kind of him, really. He was breaking down a lot more of the in-depth rules with the American football, and yeah, my love from it just grew from there. I've been to every game at Wembley since. I've been to every game at Tottenham since, and my love has just grown and grown. And as you mentioned, I've started a fantasy podcast for NFL about 3 years ago, and yeah, we've just grown and grown and grown with that.
What are the crowds like? You mentioned you went to some games and stuff. What I'd be interested to know, are the crowds similar to the football in Britain? Because I've been to America once in my adult life when we went to watch, really lucky to go and watch the basketball in, is it Madison Square Garden? Do you know what? I can't even remember who was playing, but the atmosphere is a totally different experience.
Yeah. It's a different. It depends where you go as well. For me, I'm a New York Giants fan, so if I was to go to Philadelphia, I'm sure that would be like a West Ham fan going to Millwall, for example. It'd be very hostile. New York Giants fans and Philadelphia Eagles fans do not get on. But I've had nothing but great experiences, like friendly experiences at every game I've been to. So I'm quite lucky, but I have seen things where you can get that hostile environment as well with certain teams.
What about the food? Are they like slinging hot dogs down the aisles and stuff? Like you see on The Simpsons?
Hot dogs, Budweisers, things like that. It's great. It really is. Just if you've never done it, I highly recommend just going. Even if you go to a Wembley game, I just highly recommend doing it. It's a once in a lifetime thing, really. It's great. You will like if you love sport in general, you will love American football.
Maybe I'll give you a call, Jack, next time there's one down at Wembley, and you can take me, show me the ropes.
Definitely, I would be more than happy to. I normally start drinking about 9 o'clock in the morning, so you will have to get there early. So.
You're my kind of guy. I think we'd be best friends already. It'll get me out of the house, honestly, with the missus and the kid. Hit me up, honestly. If you need a friend to go down with, I'm all up for it. Okay, so I got the rules here on the left. And again, this is absolute gibberish to me, and this may sound a little bit unprofessional, so I apologise for that. So you got passing yards 0.04. So I'm assuming then that is the further they pass it, the more points you're going to score, right? And is that the same with rushing yards and receiving yards as well?
That's correct, yeah. The Fanteam scoring is very, I would say, obviously I've been playing American fantasy football for 8 years now, so the Fanteam scoring is very, to me, basic. I play in leagues where we do, for example, for a passing touchdown, we give you the same amount of points that they get for a touchdown in real NFL, so you get 6 points.
Okay.
But we also we're a bit harder on interceptions in the leagues that I play in, so we'll give you -4, whereas on Fanteam it's -2. These are very box standard fantasy scoring points. This is a very box standard fantasy scoring point system that is used on Fanteam.
Yeah,
but it's great for newbies and people that are experienced. So they've now, the scoring's spot on for me.
If we look at defensive points, then what does sack mean? What's that all about? What's a sack?
So you get an offensive line and a defensive line. The offensive line's job is to stop the quarterback getting sacked. If you watch my team, the New York Giants, the offensive line is absolutely terrible. They give up the most sacks in pretty much every game of the season. So, so every time that defensive line gets through and sacks the quarterback, you score points if you've got that defense on your fantasy team. Or if it'd be the same. So if the quarterback throws a ball, it's a bit dodgy, and the cornerback for the opposing defense intercepts it, you'll get the points for that as well.
That makes sense. So, yeah, I think I got that now. So let's have a look at your team then, Jack, because we've got some crazy kind of formation on the go here, which I've never seen in the Premier League before. You've gone for a 4-1-2-1, yeah? With one goalkeeper. Talk to me about your team.
So on the Fanteam season long, you're only allowed to start one quarterback per week. If you play other forms of NFL fantasy, you have leagues known as Superflex leagues where you can play 2 quarterbacks. But for this one, you've got one. So I've got Matthew Stafford in there. Matthew Stafford's just gone to the Los Angeles Rams from the Detroit Lions this offseason. He's a very, very underrated quarterback. I mean, in 2019, he was on pace for a ridiculous amount of fantasy points through 6 games, and then he got injured. And that was his problem in Detroit. That Detroit also have a terrible what I was mentioning about sacks. They have a terrible offensive line, and Matthew Stafford was getting beat up left, right, and centre in that team. So he's moved to a team that are full of weapons, and when I say weapons, I mean I've got 4 here on my team, so you've got 4 wide receivers on my team here. The actual LA Rams team is very talented there. They have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, some great receivers. And you can also, this is something I like to do with my fantasy teams. I like to do stacking on DFS.
Yeah.
So I've got Matthew Stafford as my quarterback. And if you can see my tight end at the top there, which is Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
He also plays for the LA Rams. And the reason why I like Tyler Higbee this year is, I mean, through the first game, he's the second most targeted option on that team already.
Okay.
But the Rams also moved their other tight end on last season to the Seattle Seahawks. So Tyler Higbee is the main guy there at that position now. So he should be in line for a career year and catch a lot of touchdowns. And that's good. I mean, there is no. I've built a few teams on Fanteam. There's no right or wrong way of doing it with the NFL. Like you could have. I've got some teams that have got 3 running backs on. This one I've only got Nick Chubb and Ezekiel Elliott, but I kind of like to build my teams around the wide receivers. The wide receivers are the guys that are generally going to be down the field catching the bombs from the quarterback and running them in for 60-yard touchdowns.
The quarterback seems like it's a key role, obviously, in NFL, and it's obviously coming from someone with like knowledge levels down at 0. You hear about the quarterbacks spoke about in like football, like Michael Carrick's or something. Do they get a lot of fantasy points as well if you pick the right ones?
They do, yeah. They'll generally get the most points on your team per week. It's a bit strange, actually. Obviously, with this, you've got a certain amount of money to spend. If you was in a normal NFL fantasy league, if it was just a one quarterback, I personally draft quarterback very late. I go very top heavy with running backs. The running back position in the NFL is a position where they get beat up very easily. I mean, that's the thing with the American football. You'll see injuries every week, and it will destroy your team. So I had a couple of teams last week just in the red zone contest that we had on Fanteam, and I had Raheem Mostert, the San Francisco 49ers running back, in most of my builds on that, and he got injured on, I think it was the first 2 plays. He got injured and he was out. He's out for the rest of the season now. So things like that can bring you down very quickly.
Would you say then would you say there's like a Mo Salah option in the NFL game in your opinion? Is there a pick which you kind of is very hard to go without?
Yeah, you would have Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, I've not got him in this build. Christian McCaffrey is the running back from the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. So he catches balls. He runs with the ball. He's a generational talent. He's a very special player. But again, you have to be aware. A lot of people would have took him 101 last year in NFL fantasy drafts, and he got injured on the first game last year, and he was out for the rest of the season. So you do have that option, but you have to be very careful because, as I say, within the NFL, the players get beat up every week.
A lot of injuries.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just looking at the stream here live on my phone, and we are still dropping quite a lot of frames. So what that means for the viewers, it might be a little bit jerky. So I just wanted to apologize to you guys for that. I have tried like closing everything down on my computer to the point where I thought I'd literally closed the stream down. But it looks like it's still watchable. You can definitely still hear us. I would have thought. I mean, let us know in the chat. I've got the chat bar open here. If it's terrible. Do smash a like on the video, by the way, though. Hit subscribe if you're new. These problems ain't gonna last forever, promise. Okay, monster preview. I've got the fixtures here on the left-hand side of the screen. I think it's your left as well. And I've got Jack's team then on the right. As you know, we like our guests to send us their monster teams, and then we talk about them. I spoke to Jack about this already, and the first thing that jumped out to me is no Man City players, so we'll ask him about that. But first off, I'll just run through the fixtures. So there is Man City against Southampton, Norwich against Watford, Burnley against Arsenal, Liverpool against Crystal Palace, Aston Villa against Everton, Brighton against Leicester, and this looks like it's tomorrow, for 2:00 tomorrow. Whereas the other
Brighton,
games,
Leicester.
so the other games are 3:00 today and 5:00 today. With in the case of Aston Villa, Everton, then you got West Ham against Manchester United, the greatest team in the world, and then you've got Spurs against some team called Chelsea. Jack, you're a Chelsea fan.
Yep.
Let me start with that game. What do you think is going to happen in that game? Do you think you can take Spurs to the sword with the injury problems that they've got at the moment?
I think we'll win the game. It's always hard. Chelsea Tottenham is it's a hostile derby between the two clubs. I think Chelsea will win it 1-0. I think Lukaku will score the winner. Tottenham have just got, like you say, so many injury problems at the minute. But they have shocked me, Tottenham, the way they've started the season. I didn't expect the start that they had. Obviously, last week was a bit of a comeback to earth for them, but they did have the man sent off, and I paid for that last week, so I put Adler Reese in goal. So I paid for that big time last week. But they've shocked me with the way they've started. They're very good defensively, and they, apart from last week, wasn't conceding many goals.
Yeah, I think people get a bit short-sighted sometimes, don't they? Because the Man City game, the first game they played, they won that 1-0, and that's against one of the best teams in the league, right? And like you said, they got a man sent off against Crystal Palace, which, again, sometimes when you look back at the game, you maybe don't recall that or think of that straight away. Like you look at Arsenal's underlying numbers, for example, they've conceded something like 10 plus expected goals, but you've got to factor into that. They played Man City away with 10 men for like probably 60 minutes, right?
But they've had a brutal start, Arsenal.
What do you think about Arsenal?
I think they'll get better as the season goes along. Let's say that their start was brutal. I mean, they played Manchester City, Chelsea in that start. It's just the shocking result was the first game of the season, I suppose, against Brentford. But I kind of mentioned that on my Twitter handle with Arsenal. There's a certain way that you play Arsenal, and it's been like that for about 10 years now. If you just stick bully up front, it has them. If you stick a bully up front,
I agree.
like Brentford have with Tony, they get found out very easily. So, and it's the same thing with Chelsea. It was Lukaku's first game against them, and he just absolutely bullied them up front. So, I do think they'll get better, but it's also, their start wasn't. It's kind of not fair to judge them as of just yet with that start that they had. It's just they wasn't expected to win them games, and I'm sure Arsenal fans have begged to differ with that, but they wasn't expected to win them games.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with that, and it is funny when you think about Arsenal. It's like they've always got the same problems, and they have for like decades. They've always lacked a bit of strength in the middle of the park. They've always like been a bit soft. Been perceived as a bit soft anyway, but especially by Man United fans anyway. But you've gone for Saka there in the middle of the park, which is an interesting one. Is there someone you rate highly as an England fan? We spoke about England earlier off air.
Yeah, I love what I saw from Saka at the Euros, and he's just sort of gradually, slowly getting back to his form. And like I say, this is a nice game for them against Burnley. Burnley have been poor this season and they're in trouble, really. I think, but yeah, I like Saka. He's very skillful. For me, he's their best player. Arsenal's best player. They've got Aubameyang there, and you got Smith Rowe's been playing very well for them. I've been impressed with him when I've seen Arsenal play this season. But yeah, Saka for me is Arsenal's best player.
That's interesting because Smith Rowe is someone who potentially could be on my shopping list in the official FPL game because he's gone down to like 5.3 million or something now, and I've gone for Ronaldo and Lukaku up front on my wildcard this week, which means I'm in the market for like a lot of cheap midfielders.
Yeah.
Interesting that you fancy him because I don't think I've seen much of Arsenal this year yet.
Unfortunately, I've seen my father-in-law's an Arsenal fan, so unfortunately, I've seen quite a lot of Arsenal games. But he, again, that's another reason why I've gone with Saka because he's a cheaper option, and obviously, we'd all love to put Mo Salah in this team and other players, but it comes down to having the money, and quite frankly, I don't have the money to spend. So.
That's what I think's the unique thing about the monster games, right? The pricing is a lot more difficult, I would say, than the Fanteam £1 million game. I actually wildcarded in the £1 million game this week, and I'll show you my team later on, big team reveal or whatever. Should have probably teased that at the start. Actually, I think I made a video on it in the week, to be fair. But my point was going to be, I found it a lot easier to fit, for example, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah into my team in the Fanteam £1 million game than I did in official FPL. But when it comes to a thing like a monster, I think it's a lot trickier. Obviously, you've got Lukaku and Ronaldo here, but like you said, you can't afford the third one. You couldn't afford the Salah, for example.
That's why Jota's a great option this week.
That's what I was going to say. You can see you got Jota there. Are there any other great value picks that you spotted this week, or is it Jota is the one?
I still think Jota's the one for me. I still think Gray is very underrated, and I mean he's been banging in a few goals this season as well. So for Everton, So I think he's underrated and undervalued at the minute. So that's another option there for me. But Jota's the one with Firmino out and against Palace. I know Palace won last week, but I've not been impressed by them at all. I actually put a bet on Vieira to be the first manager sacked because I know a lot of people got on Arteta's back due to the start, but for me, Arsenal are known for snidgers, whereas we've seen it a few seasons ago with the ball. They played 4 games, they lost 4 games, no goals, and they sacked him. So Palace I know again they won last week, but I've not been impressed by Palace at all this season.
Conor Gallagher, what do you think?
Yeah, I say he's given them a spark, Palace, but I think with the turmoil of the turnaround of players that they've had there, it was something like 20 players out the door or something. It was something stupid at Crystal Palace this off-season.
All out of contract as well, wasn't it? Like the most of them.
Yeah. So I didn't fancy them coming into the season. I didn't really like the appointment of Vieira. But Gallagher's done well. I cannot bet against Liverpool in this game. I really fancy Jota to score a couple of goals in this game.
I just got the stream up here on my phone. It looks like we're doing a lot better now in terms of frame rate and everything, so that's good.
Great.
Looks like we got Sean in the chat there. Trent Alexander-Arnold, captain for him this week. Love that. What do you think? What's your views on Trent, Jack? You're not going to pull a David this week and tell me that Trent's a bad option like David did with Ronaldo last week. He's clearly insane, right?
Well, I done the same thing with Ronaldo last week. I thought it was a bad option, but I paid the price. But no, Trent's great. He bombs forward, and the assists that you get, the crosses that he puts in. It's kind of why I've gone for back 3 that I've gone with this one. I like my defenders to be able to get that, putting the crosses in, maybe take the odd set piece, and you get that with Trent. Trent's a great option, especially as captain.
Yeah, I think you're right. You want if you're paying any kind of money for your defenders, you want them to be able to like have some threat in maybe a bad fixture. If they're not going to get a clean sheet, you maybe could get an assist from, for example. Otherwise, I think you just pay peanuts for them and just take what you can get in it. So we've been talking quite a lot about just football in general here. So I'll go straight on to the Fanteam £1 million game, because that kind of encompasses it all. Here on the screen for the viewers, I've got last week's results and then the upcoming fixtures for this week, including the Newcastle and Leeds game last night. We'll speak about that first because it's the most recent thing. Did you manage to watch any of this, Jack?
I didn't actually. Unfortunately, I was out late last night, so I didn't get to watch any of it. Leeds are another team I've not. They're just leaking goals for fun at the minute. They could find themselves in trouble towards the end of the season.
Definitely a few injuries. I managed to watch this one here sitting on my computer. So Rafinha's goal, maybe a little bit lucky. Excellent dummy from Rodrigo, though. Definitely watch it if you get a chance, because it was an end-to-end game, really exciting. Alan St. Maximin, He's like Cantona or something. Honestly, he's like he's like Ronaldo back in the. Honestly, he's a very, very good player. And maybe he's not like that elite level. Maybe Newcastle or an Everton or something is his level. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does break that and go to a top 4 club, because his ability on the ball and his like determination to get a shot off and his shots on target and stuff like that, he's really impressed me. As well as Rafinha in that game yesterday.
Newcastle always find them sort of players, though, don't they? Like down the years, they've seen like Ben Arthur there. These very skillful players, and they always eventually move on. Unfortunately for Newcastle,
and they're always really exciting, aren't they? At Newcastle, like Aspria and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, David Ginola, another one.
Ginola,
so, yeah.
What a shout. Okay, going backwards then from that Leeds game is another Leeds game, the 3-0 at Liverpool. I'm struggling to remember this now, to be honest with you. Oh, I remember. I didn't see this game, but I had Jota captain, right? And he didn't get anything, but Salah scored and Mane scored. So I was absolutely fuming with this one. Did you watch this one?
I didn't watch that one, no, but I've kind of been the same. I've had Mane as my like vice captain or captain in a couple of my builds from week to week, and kind of really hasn't done anything. And then last week I took him off of that, and he goes and scores a goal. So
nightmare.
when I go away from it, he scores, and when I do have him there, he just doesn't really do a lot. So
it's a nightmare, and it's timing is everything, isn't it? With these calls, it's tricky. 3-0 Chelsea versus Villa. I saw a bit of this. I was interested to see Villa set up with like a wing back formation. I think it's probably like a 5-3-2 or something with Matty Cash and who's the other guy? Not Taylor. Target.
Yes,
potentially being good fantasy options going forward if they stay in that same formation. Maybe it was just to counteract Chelsea's 5 at the back formation, which Tuchel has had so much success with. Jack, you're a Chelsea fan. Tell me about this game.
I thought Chelsea were lucky actually in this game. they took the lead earlier, but Villa had lots of chances, and then Chelsea decided to finally kill the game off. I do think Villa were a little tad unlucky in this game, but it was the usual thing with Chelsea. They're just very good on the counter attack. Lukaku just brings so much else into play for Chelsea now. Like he can hold the ball up, and the options that Chelsea have, like especially coming off the bench, which is kind of why they're hard for fantasy, because you don't really know who's going to play, apart from Lukaku and Mount, who's going to play most of the time, 90 minutes. The guys elsewhere, you've got Pulisic, Ziyech, Havertz, Werner. These guys are going to rotate from week to week and come off, and it makes them very hard for fantasy.
I'm quite heavy on Reece James. I've only got 2 teams, one Fanteam team and one official FPL team. Reece James in both of them. I had him for that red card, unfortunately, but I did I benched him in FPL because I've got some kind of crystal ball in my head. It must do. But I took the red in Fanteam. Tell me about Reece James. I got a lot of people in my comments sometimes saying, "Oh, Reece James might get rotated." I'm having none of that. I think he's the best right wing back. Okay, he might get rotated, but I think Rudiger might get rotated and Christensen might get rotated. What's your opinion on that?
He's certainly our best option there. I kind of agree with what everyone else said. I'm not too sure Tuchel fancies him very much. I know, because you can see Tuchel sometimes screaming at him because he doesn't get back. He'll bomb forward and he doesn't go back. But for Chelsea, he's the best option there at the minute. And he's a very exciting player to watch as well. He's kind of in a similar mould to Trent, really. You get that similar, the crosses coming in. He's a very good crosser of the ball, Reece James. Very, very good. So, he's a great option for fantasy.
Interesting. I didn't know. I didn't know that. I've not spotted the Tuchel screaming at him situation. Did you see Pep in the week screaming at Mahrez?
Yeah, and Jack Grealish when they were like 6-0 up or something. Yeah, it's just you're just like, okay, yeah.
And they were both kind of like walking off as if to say, "I'm not even sure what he said, but okay." Right?
Yeah.
So that's hilarious. He's leaving, isn't he, at the end of the season, Pep Guardiola? Do you think that's changed his like demeanor a little bit? I've seen some changes in the man, press conferences and stuff.
He does that everywhere he sort of goes, doesn't he? Right? He'll go somewhere, do sort of 3 or 4 years, and then move on. But Yeah, his demeanor's changed. He seems I don't know. He seems a little bit more grumpier this year
100%.
what
Yeah.
we've seen in the past with him. So actually saying that he was kind of in a similar mould to what he is now in his last year at Bayern, where he was getting a bit grumpy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he was a bit similar there. So yeah, his demeanor's certainly changed.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the best way to judge what people are going to do in the future is by looking at what they've done in the past, and if it's a trend, it could be interesting. But we know he's a winner, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him win like trophies and games for Man City. I don't think it's going to affect much. It's just something that I noticed, which I thought was interesting. We got Mo in the chat saying he's got Semedo captain. Wolves fixture this week, just looking here, is Brentford. What's your thoughts on Semedo captain, Jack?
Yeah, I like it. I've actually picked Wolves to win that game. They need a win as well. They've only got 3 points this season. I think they've been a bit unlucky. I've seen a couple of the Wolves games this year. They've been quite good, but Brentford, since obviously that opening day win, they've gone on a bit of a downward slide. They haven't been. I did wonder if they could keep up that sort of high level. What they was against Arsenal, basically. I did kind of wonder how long that would last, and yeah, they seem to be on a bit of a downward spiral. I mean, I'd say I've been impressed with all. I like that call, Semedo.
I think he's crazy myself. Absolutely mental. He could have had a hat-trick, to be fair, Semedo, in the last game they played. I only saw the highlights, but like every highlight for the first 10 minutes was just Semedo was in the box taking a shot. So I could see you thinking, but I just think it's absolutely mental. But good luck to you. I mean, sometimes, especially in Fanteam, if you want to win the money and stuff, these are the kind of calls which...
you've got to go against the grain, right? That's what you do in any daily fantasy. You go against the grain.
Yeah, this is something I'm learning because I'm quite new to the whole scene of the kind of DFS and Fanteam and stuff.
Yeah.
I would probably describe myself as a loose aggressive player in official FPL, for example, which I think works in Fanteam. But then I think I've had a lot of guests on here and stuff, and it seems to be quite loose, like with picks and stuff, like on purpose. Like I want to go against the grain because, especially in the Monster, for example, we had Callum saying, I either want this team to lose or win big. Yeah, so that's something that's something I'm learning.
I did that with my biggest ever win on daily fantasy. I won $10,000 on a Chelsea Leicester showdown.
Wow.
Back in April, and I put Antonio Rudiger as my captain. he got double the points and he scored a goal in that game, so which was great. And then I also had Jorginho in there. He scored a penalty, and I think it was Iniacho who scored for Leicester, and I had him in there as well. So I went against the grain. I mean, that team could have finished last, like any day of the week, but thankfully for me that day it finished top.
That is crazy. So what kind of format was that then? That wasn't a Monster, was it?
No, it wasn't a Monster. That was on another form. I don't know if I can mention them. It's DraftKings, but
okay.
It was just a captain showdown mode. You pick a captain. The captain. It's 1.5 times the points they get. So they get 1.5 times the points the captain, and then you build. You pick another 4 players after that. Luckily, like I say, for me, I did drop down. It was in the 92nd minute. I dropped down to second, which would have been $2,500. But in the 93rd minute, the guy that overtook me, I can't remember the player, but that player got booked. So he then dropped below me, and I went back up to the top. So, yeah, it was. I was actually on a training course, and I was running around the car park at 10 o'clock at night when I won that.
Mad, man. This is mad. You got your finger in a lot of pies. You got your NFL, your Fanteam, your official FPL, obviously. I'm guessing as well. Do you find it hard to manage all of them? Are you like sitting down on a Saturday morning, like stressing out or anything? Because I'm finding it hard just with my 2 teams.
I used to. I don't know. I sort of dedicate a bit of time to myself each and every day. With the NFL, for example, last year I dropped a lot of leagues this year for the NFL because last year I had about 50 leagues that I was playing in. And
what does that mean? Sorry, you had about leagues. Sorry, I thought you said leagues.
Yeah, leagues like NFL leagues. Sorry, so they were all dynasty leagues, and I was having to sit down on a Sunday about it must have been about, I don't know, about 10 o'clock in the morning till kickoff at 6 o'clock at night, setting all my lineups, making sure they're okay. And it got too much of a chore. And so I cut back this year with the NFL, but I probably took on a few too many FPL teams this year. So I just dedicate a little bit of time to myself each and every day now to balance it out. And yeah, I go from there, really. It's not as hard as you think it is.
And I suppose it kind of focuses you just, well, I thought this at the start before it all kicked off. I thought, oh, maybe it will focus my decision making and I won't overthink things because I haven't got a certain amount of time and I just do, right, this is the easy call, this is the easy call. And usually the easy call is the best, right? But I found it hasn't quite worked like that, unfortunately. Okay.
Just go against the grain every week.
Maybe I'll take that advice. This is what I need, like some mentors. Like I got Jack now, Callum, Joe's quite good as well. Okay. So Man United 4-1 against Newcastle. This was the Ronaldo game. Everybody watched this game. Jack, I'm sure you were no exception, or were you? I know you've got childcare duties and stuff to attend to. Did you watch the homecoming?
I didn't actually watch it, but I listened to it on the radio. I was at work that day, but I did listen to it on the radio. So, I mean, yeah, it was great. Like, especially if you're a Man United fan, I love Ronaldo. I think he's, even as a Chelsea fan, I think he's the best player ever. And I put him above Messi personally, just because I've seen him do it in multiple leagues. So it's great to have him back in the Premier League, and you know, it was great to see him score 2 goals. And it's, as much as I, as a Chelsea fan, have a big rivalry and against Manchester United, for me, it's great to have that caliber of player back in the Premier League.
Messi versus Ronaldo. I think we've got 2 Ronaldo advocates here on stream. I just think Ronaldo, he's just done it at every level, international level. But interesting to see Messi now. They won the Copa America, I think, recently, didn't they? So he's kind of, in terms of like quantifiable kind of trophies, he's got that international trophy now that Ronaldo's got, because he won the Euros as well. So that's what that's what tipped me over the edge a couple of years ago to say, right, Ronaldo's definitely the best now. But maybe it's a bit more of a debate in my head. But again, a United fan, it's got to be Ronaldo. So let us know in the chat, who do you think is the greatest of all time, Messi or Ronaldo? And don't forget to hit like while you're down there and subscribe, obviously, if you're new. So that was the homecoming. Man City won 1-0 against Leicester. It seems like such a long time ago. I'm trying to remember this game. I can't remember it at all. Can you remember it?
Did Mahrez score? I can't.
I don't think so.
I don't remember this game.
No, not me. This is the kind of content you tune in for, guys, isn't it? Like, people just not remembering. Like, okay, Brighton 1-0 against Brentford. That, I believe, was a Trossard goal. In a very kind of forgettable game. Arsenal 1-0 was an Aubameyang goal.
Oh, that was an awful game as well.
Was it bad?
Norwich.
Just 2 bad teams playing each other, yeah?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were lucky as well. I thought there was a bit of contact within that goal as well. So I thought they were lucky that the goal got given as well. So they were very lucky, Arsenal, but they got the win that they needed desperately.
Seen some people going transferring in Aubameyang on their wild card. I know the famous chess player Magnus Carlsen, who is also very good at FPL, brought in Aubameyang for that game, which was interesting. Apparently he's still got him in his team now. What's your thoughts on Aubameyang? Because he's someone who's done well for me in the past, but nowadays I just think he's just too expensive, isn't he?
I think he's too expensive, and to me, it just seems he's kind of lost interest there. He doesn't really care. And I mean, it's easy as a Chelsea fan to stick it to Arsenal, but do you kind of blame him? I mean, Arsenal's transfer policy, their whole... I mean, if I supported Arsenal, that would infuriate me the way... Like I said earlier, you can... For the last 10 years, there's a certain way you play Arsenal and you beat them every week. Just... That would infuriate me if I was an Arsenal fan watching that every week. So you can kind of see why some of the players look like they've lost interest, and Aubameyang's one of them, and he's too expensive for me to put in my team. Yeah,
totally. We got Joe in the chat, FPL Graphics. If you don't follow him on Twitter, go and give him a follow. He's a great guy. One of my mentors here on Fanteam. He's morning, lads. Unpopular opinion: the Nations League win for Ronaldo was tougher than the Copa America win for Messi. So I didn't actually know they won the Nations League. This is one of these Mickey Mouse leagues, which I never even paid attention to. But so Portugal won the Euros and the Nations League, did they? That I didn't realize that.
Yeah, England got to the semi-final, didn't they? England played Holland. That was it. England played Holland. Portugal played Switzerland in the semi-finals of that, and then Portugal won. Holland beat England, and then England had to play that stupid third place game that they play. I don't know why they even play that, but yeah. And then Portugal beat Holland. I kind of agree with that. I mean, South America teams are pretty competitive, but outside of Argentina and Brazil, are they really? Are any of them teams going to win it? And even Brazil now, aging team, a lot of that. So we've seen it with the Olympics team. They took Dani Alves, so he's like 39. So I kind of agree that winning the Nations League was harder than winning the Copa America for Messi.
A lot of good teams, a lot of good teams. What's your thoughts then? I don't know if you've given much thought to the rumours of a World Cup every 2 years. I was thinking about this the other day because obviously we've got this Arsene Wenger is now involved with FIFA and stuff, and he wants to have the World Cup every 2 years. I think it's quite. I can't see anything wrong with it. What do you think about that?
I think it'd take away some of the sort of glitz from it. To be honest, I kind of like the format as it is. I don't. What I don't like is the new format of the World Cup, and I don't even like the Euros format where they let the third place team go, like 6 of the third place teams go through. I don't like any of that. For me, it's the top 2 that should go through, and I think it would take kind of the glitz away from it. I would prefer it to stay how it is.
So my counter argument to that, and it's healthy to have a disagreement, guys, at home. Don't worry about it. People can argue and still have fun. My counter argument to that would be the Champions League. The Champions League is every single year. Would you prefer to have the Champions League every 4 years or every 2 years? That's my question to you.
I like the I love the Champions League how it is, to be honest. So, I can see your argument.
Yeah, that's my point in the argument. Is basically, I think it's just a change thing. People don't like change. It's like, oh, every 4 years makes it magical. But if it was already every 2 years, I think the same people would be arguing for the same thing. And I'm not trying to put you in a box there, Jack, but it's just my thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, I think the format's worse coming up. I think it's for the US, Mexico, and Canadian World Cup after the Qatar one. The format there is just, I think it's like 48 teams or something. I've not really got that in front of me at the minute, but the format is just, it sounds absolutely silly and stupid to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely on your side with that. But being a Wales fan in the Euros, it was nice to see, do you know what I mean, a bit more of a chance for us to go through. But yeah, you're right. You need to kind of just like keep it a bit more simple for the fans, because I was doing a bit of Euros content. I had no idea who was going through third place or who was going to the quarterfinal. It was just like you have to have a algorithm to figure it out or something, which just isn't. It's just not fun, is it?
No.
Okay, so looking at the fixtures for next week, we got Wolves against Brentford. We'll fire through these really quickly. We've got 15 minutes left. Wolves against Brentford. We got Mo in the chat, captain in Semedo. I've bought in, I think, Semedo into my Fanteam team, and we'll go through our teams in a second. I've also bought in.
Yep.
What's the other fullback? Marcel. What's your thoughts on this game? What any predictions from you, Jack?
As I said earlier, I think Wolves will win this game. I've been impressed. I know they've only got 3 points on the board at the minute, Wolves, but I from what I've seen from them, I've been impressed. They look very good going forward, especially Traore. Just the pace on that guy is just unbelievable. But Brentford, to me, since that opening day win, seemed to be on a bit of a slide. So yeah, I'm going Wolves in this game.
Yes, it's the same here. I think I'm going Wolves 1-0. I think they'll break their scorer in duck. Is it right that they haven't scored yet in the Premier League? I think they. But to be fair, Brentford are good defence, right? Their numbers are good so far. Yeah,
they're good defence. I don't think they can keep up that pace, that high pressure tempo that they play. It kind of reminds me. They're best. This is a bad analogy, but they kind of remind me of Fulham. When Fulham come up a couple of years ago, when they played that sort of high pace, high tempo. Brentford are a better team than Fulham were then anyway, but it's very sort of similar to me, and I don't think you can keep that up throughout the season.
Arsenal go to Turf Moor. This is going to be a nightmare for them. If you read anything into mine and Jack's conversation so far about Arsenal getting bullied, I think Burnley win this 1-0. Maybe it's a draw 1-0. What do you think?
I've gone the other way. I think Arsenal win this game 1-0. I've not been impressed really with what I've seen from Burnley. Wood has been brilliant for them, but I think Arsenal nick this 1-0, and I think Saka scores the goal.
Ooh, come on, Saka. I do like Saka, to be fair. He's a good player. Liverpool, Crystal Palace. I think we'll probably have different opinions on this one. I can see Crystal Palace getting something out of this game, even if it's just a draw. Maybe the midweek hangover for Liverpool. Maybe they choose to rest one or two players. I can definitely see a resting coming. We saw Mane get his rest in midweek. Salah got rested last year against Crystal Palace, but then came on and scored like 3 goals. I could see something like that happening. Maybe Jota, but it's just a little hunch that I've got. And Crystal Palace are in form, Conor Gallagher, etc. It's just an upset which I can see happening. I can see, Jack, you're going to go the other way though, right?
Yeah, we was talking about overthinking things sometimes earlier. Liverpool win this game quite comfortably as well.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've probably thought about that one a bit too hard. Okay, Man City, Southampton. Any shock results here?
No, Man City for me win this game. I think they'll win it quite comfortably, 2 or 3-0. I fancy Torres to have a good game here as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't see any upsets in this one myself either. A comfortable win for Man City unless Southampton pull off some kind of dogged defensive performance, which, to be fair, they have done in the past, but it's a complete miracle kind of performance, isn't it, really? Norwich, Watford. Could be an interesting one. I bought Sarr into one of my teams, and I'm hoping against hope that he actually does something, but I regret it, to be honest with you. What do you think about this game?
Ball draw.
0-0.
This one, 0-0. This game that I'm certainly avoiding. If anyone's going to nick it, it'd be Watford. They look a better team than Norwich, but I just fancy Norwich at home as well. Crowd behind them. I fancy a ball draw here.
Yeah, fair enough. I could get behind that quite easily. 0-0. Aston Villa against Everton. 2 mid-table clubs historically. Rafa Benitez doing bits at Everton. Damari Gray on fire. Aston Villa a little bit unstable, I think it is fair to say at the moment. We don't really know what formation they're playing. I don't think they really know what their plan is going forward. What do you see happening in this game, Jack?
I think this will be a score draw. Everton have been. It's hard for me to say this as well, because as a Chelsea fan, don't really like Rafa Benitez, but Benitez is a very good manager, especially defensively. So I think this will be a 1-1 draw here. I fancy Ings to score, and I fancy Gray to score actually for Everton.
Joe, FPL Graphics in the chat. Every 2 years he wants the World Cup as well, but only if they scrap the friendlies. I think that is the idea as well, listening to what Wenger was saying. Yeah. He said if he was a club manager, he'd sign up to it straight away, because it does mean that the whole proposition that they've put forward, it does mean that there's less kind of interruption to the club schedule. I don't know all the details, but yeah, that's what I heard him say, I think, on Talk Sport not too long ago. So thanks for that, Joe. Let's have a look here. Who we got to? Brighton versus Leicester. That's a tricky one to call for me. Brighton are traditionally quite good defensively, although they don't perform up to their underlying numbers. Leicester a little bit shaky at the moment. The injuries at the back. Maybe a 2-2. I'm going for Desmond. What do you think, Jack?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Leicester win here. I think Leicester nick it. They've been a little bit unlucky. Again, had a bit of a tougher start than most to the league. But yeah, I've been impressed with Brighton. Brighton have been very good this season, but Leicester and Vardy 2-1. They nick this.
Yeah, it's got a Vardy goal over, actually, I think, this game. I think you're right there. West Ham against Ronaldo FC. More goals for our man?
Yeah, I've got a Man United win here. West Ham, Antonio is going to be suspended for this game as well. So this is although West Ham have been Man United's bogey team down the years as well. So, but this is Ronaldo written all over it, and I think Man United win this game 3-0.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a game too many for West Ham, just coming back from Europe, where apparently they did play very, very well. I think they'll come unstuck here, or at least I hope they do, against Ronaldo's Man United. Spurs against Chelsea. Take it away, Jack.
Chelsea continue the tradition of beating Tottenham in the Premier League and win this game 1-0. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game, but I think Chelsea nick it towards the end. The problem with Tottenham at the minute is Harry Kane is, I don't know. I don't know if he's quite fit enough. I mean, when England played the other day, he had 3 or 4 chances that he always scores. And he scored one of them, but it was, I don't think he's quite fit enough and up to the pace yet. So Chelsea win this game 1-0.
Yeah, to be fair, he didn't come back until late. Famously, didn't come back into training until late, did he? So maybe you're onto something there. Maybe the off the field stuff as well has affected things. Maybe mentally, we don't know. But I've no doubt, obviously, that he's gonna get back to where he was before. It's just a matter of time. I think I'm with you. Chelsea win this game, I think, comfortably with the injuries that Tottenham have got and stuff now. Yeah. I can't see any other result out of that game. Okay, very quickly then, we got Jack's team in front of us for the £1 million game. I'm sure you got multiple teams, Jack, but this is the one you have sent me in. I'll read it out for the podcast listeners. If we're still doing I'm not sure if we're still sending this on podcasts. David, let me know in the chat if you're still watching. Schmeichel, Maguire, Digne and White, Salah, Jota, Mount, Torres and Gray. Bamford, Ronaldo, with a bench then of Sanchez, Wan-Bissaka. I can't quite see, it's very, very small, but it's a Crystal Palace player, and then a Mina, it looks like, last on your bench here.
I think it was Benteke.
Benteke, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Firstly, Jack, have I got the right team? Because sometimes it's quite hard to tell with the screenshots that get sent to me. Sometimes I make a mistake. And secondly, talk to me about your hopes, your fears, your desires about this team going forward.
You do have the right team. My hopes is, I mean, obviously I hope it finishes within the money, but in truth, I'm probably a better NFL player than I am at FPL. I've sort of stuck with Ben White for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, he's just come back from COVID. I think it's just the cheapness of Ben White in that team. That's why I've sort of kept him in there. And yeah, I don't know. Have I got Lukaku and is that up front on that Bamford? Bamford and
Ronaldo.
Last night, didn't he? Yeah, Bamford went off injured last night, didn't he? So. Yeah, it's not a good start. I need the listeners' help with that one. What can I improve on?
I wouldn't be too worried about Bamford. He did, obviously, famously, his hamstrings were pinging the other week. He came off injured, but then I think went back on the pitch, which we've seen him do before quite a few times at Leeds. I think it's just fatigue more than anything. I think Rafinha has got a bit of a knock, which he's playing through. And I think Bielsa took him off early yesterday because of that. So injuries in a way, but I think injuries where they can play through. At least that's just my opinion. I think it's a good teammate. Obviously, you've got Ronaldo and Salah there, which are excellent. Jota is a great choice, at least for this week and maybe even next week as well. Mount, I think, is just incredible value. You'll see, I got him in my team as well. 7 million, I think.
Yeah, it's 7.5, I think. Something he's around that area, but yeah, just fantastic value.
Yeah, massive,
especially for what he does.
Yeah, massively underpriced. Torres, I like. The jury is still out, obviously, but listen, how many times do we need to see him start up front as a number 9 for Man City before we decide that that's his role? Like, so I like that. Gray, you mentioned before. I can't remember if that was on air or off air, but he's on fire at the moment. Maguire would probably be, as a Man United fan, someone who I would change. It's not a massive problem in your team, but I just. United just don't keep clean sheets. We're pretty decent at defending, but we always seem to concede a goal. Always seems to happen. Yeah. But maybe with Varane now that doesn't happen. But I think the introduction of Varane means we play Pogba in centre midfield instead of McFred, which potentially could cause a different kind of issue.
Been brilliant this season. He's been brilliant.
He has been good. Yeah, 7 assists, I think, is it?
Yeah, something crazy.
And Schmeichel in goal is fine. So I think it's a good team, and you've got a decent bench: Wan-Bissaka, Benteke, and Mina. Yeah. So I don't think you need much help there, Jack. I think you're onto something there. Okay, so we'll look at my team next, and I wildcarded this team this week. I think this is exactly the same team as I did on the video midweek, so there's probably not any surprises. I've got Sanchez in goal, Trent, Reece James, the 2 Wolves fullbacks, Marçal and Semedo, who are just playing so advanced, and like we spoke about earlier, Semedo could have got a hat-trick in that game the other day, couldn't he? Yeah, it's really good. Salah, Jota, Mount and Torres. So that actually might be let me skip back. That might be the same midfield as you. Salah, Jota, Mount, Torres. You got Gray.
I've got Gray as well.
Yeah, you've got Gray. But I've got Allen. Yeah, so watch out. Lukaku and Ronaldo, the 2 big boys up front.
Yeah.
Hurst survived the wild card just because I think there's more value. It's hard to explain, but when I was picking the team, there wasn't any value kind of 4.5 million strikers that I wanted, but there were value midfielders and defenders, if that makes sense. So Hurst just becomes the fall guy by default there, really. And then Duffy and Allen. I sent you this team, I think, on Twitter, didn't I? So any thoughts on this? What do you think?
No, I like it. I love your midfield. So we're on to something similar there. I love the 2 up front as well. I guess you could probably change maybe one of the Wolves defenders. I don't know if I like having 2 of the same players in the same position like that. But yeah, it's hard to not like that team, especially with the front 2, Lukaku and Ronaldo. It's just, you're guaranteed goals there.
I think, like we spoke about earlier, I think Lukaku is the pick now from Chelsea in terms of he's not going to get rotated, is he? Surely Ronaldo.
No, I mean, it's the same with Mount, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mount and Lukaku are just not going to get rotated. So
yeah. Although you did see Saul, didn't Saul play instead of Mount?
Oh yeah. He played 45. No, instead of Jorginho, it was. He played 45 minutes, and he won't be playing again anytime soon.
Oh really?
Very forgettable performance.
So you'd still be bullish on Mount as a Chelsea fan, yeah?
Yeah, I'm very bullish. It's the others that I mentioned earlier. They're great, but it's picking the weeks because of the rotation of Havertz, Pulisic. Obviously, Pulisic is injured, and then you've got Ziyech there, Werner. It's just there's so much rotation that they can do, and you've also got other players that just don't even get in the squad, like Barkley and players like that. Just there's so much rotation Chelsea can do at that position.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it. We've done an hour. Jack, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I mean that. Where can the people find you? What are you up to across social media and fantasy in general?
So you can find just if you go to my personal Twitter account, it's at Jack Humphrey KM. I generally just do NFL content at the minute. I also big golf nut, so I've been punching out some golf articles for DFS week to week. So golf's your thing, get onto my website and get on my picks. I've actually, thankfully, this week all 6 of my players have made the cut, so which is great. So the weekend's going to be a good one. But yeah, just head over there, find all my content, and thanks for having me on.
Who's your pick, Jack, for the golf tournament coming up? I'm not sure which tournament it is, but who if you had to bet on one player to win it, who would it be? For the
Do you mean the Ryder Cup? So we got the Ryder Cup next week.
It's the Ryder Cup, is it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of turmoil in the US team, so I think Europe nick it and retain it. You've got a lot of turmoil there. You've got Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau who just hate each other. I don't know why. They just do not like each other. You've got Patrick Reed, who's not even made the team, but he's liking all these tweets at saying that the captain Steve Stricker's pick is stupid, all these wild card picks. So you've got there's a lot of turmoil in that US team. It's on paper they have the best team, but none of them like each other. So it's Team Europe. Have a little bet that they'll nick it by a point, I think.
Sick, nice bit of insight there on the golf, guys. If you fancy having a bet on that, do gamble away. begambleaway.org, 18 plus, etc. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about the dropping of frames earlier, but hey, it's live kind of